Welcome, Boy Scout Troop 109 to Open Water Scuba. And we are so happy that you're here. I'm going to share my screen. It'll take me just a moment here. And this is an exciting class, I think. Part of what we're going to be doing tonight is working on the rest of our schedule. So we have part of the schedule, but not all of the schedule. And so that'll be a big part of tonight. So give me just a minute while I move some things around here on my screen. All right. Everyone see welcome to scuba class?
Yes.
Great. So you're entering a whole new world and beneath the sea, and it's Scuba Educators International. We'll tell you more about the organization soon, but it used to be YMCA. My name is Gabrielli. It's my real name. And you can find us on the internet at TallahasseeScuba.com or scubawithgabrielle.com. I have an awesome teaching team. I mentioned to some of you who got here early that some were caught in the rain and at work and other things. So I want to tell you, this is a fantastic team of individuals. We have another individual who is diving with us tomorrow, who is a combat wounded veteran who may be rejoining us as well. But this team is phenomenal with decades of experience. And so you're getting a great team. Ronny and Victor, who will be teaching a lot tonight, are about to finish their instructor certifications. So this month they are finishing. So by the time you have your pool session, they will both be instructors. The really cool thing about this is that almost all of us on this list are former scouts. So, and we have a couple of Eagle Scouts in the mix as well. So, and you already know about Ronny, but so when we do introductions, I'll make sure to have those who are here to tell you a little bit more about their scouting experience. Me, I was just a brownie, and then I went on to be a Girl Scout, and but I wasn't a Girl Scout for very long because growing up in the military, we moved a lot. And but I think that one thing you'll find is that we all have the same values that scouts do, and we are all 100% unpaid volunteers. I want you to keep that in mind. We're all working hard. The team works hard, and we do it out of the goodness of our hearts because scuba is our passion, and we want to make sure that we teach you the right way. And the right way is not always the fun way, but it's the right way, and it's going to make you be a safe diver. It's going to make you want to dive for the rest of your life and be a really good diver. Okay. So the tentative schedule that we have right now is we have lecture tonight until 9:45. These times are approximate. If we have a lot of questions, it might go slightly longer. If you know, it might go slightly less. The next lecture is going to be longer, and it's important to read the book by then, the entire book by then. That's Monday, June 6th. And then we have Tuesday, July 5th. That's another really important one. And then Thursday, July 7th, just 2 days later, we have the final review and exam. And then Saturday, July 9th, we have our first pool session at Florida A&M University. And we do need to schedule another pool session and checkout dives. So we should probably do that now. There are 20 of you who are registered. So let me ask you, of the 20, if you could put in the chat box or speak up, how many of you previously were certified?
I'm certified.
Miles. Okay. Give me some numbers. Tell me who.
I was BSAC certified, not Paddy.
That's all right.
So
It doesn't matter what certifying agency. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5 of you.
Me too.
Yeah, I know about you, Miles. Yeah. So if everyone could post in the chat box, that would be really helpful, as Bobby said, just so I can have names. And for those of you who were previously certified, I think you're going to learn a lot. I think you'll be surprised, if it's been a while since you learned scuba, how much more you're going to learn in this class. And, you know, even if you remembered everything, this is going to make you a better, safer dive buddy. And more importantly, to your child, you're going to be you're going to be good. So All right. What I'd like to do right now while people are typing in the chat box is introductions. So let's start with the leadership team. Let's start with Ronny. Oh, by the way, I'm Gabrielle. And one thing I like to do for the leadership team is have you tell us a little bit about yourselves. I've been diving since I was a teenager. I went to Florida State University and learned scuba there. I also went to Florida A&M University and absolutely love scuba diving. I've dived all over the world. I've been to 88 countries and I've dived in most of them. So I'm an instructor trainer with Scuba Educators, and let me toss it over to Ronny, and then he's going to toss it to Victor.
Hey everyone, good to see you again. I'm Ronny Ahmed. I've been diving for 7.5 years. I met Gabrielle in the ICU, the neuro ICU, after being a gunshot wound victim. I'm paralyzed. I'll be the first paraplegic instructor for SCI at the very least. So yeah, I'm looking forward to teaching you guys.
And an Eagle Scout. Yes. Victor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Blanco. I'm originally from Venezuela, but I've been living here in the United States for 6 years now. It sounds like, wow. And I'm a marine biologist. I work full-time with the University of Florida as the marine extension agent in Taylor County. So I live in Perry, south of Tallahassee. I've lived here for 5 years, and I work with Florida Sea Grant as well in the county. And I am the equivalent. Well, before that, I've been diving for 35 years. I started diving when I was 12, and that was actually what made me move towards getting my degree in marine biology, which was, I think, the best decision I ever took. And in Venezuela, I was part of the Boy Scout movement. We have a different levels, but I am the equivalent of an Eagle Scout in Venezuela. It's called Scout de Bolivar. You know, I just live the movement every day of my life. It's just part of me, and I'm very grateful to be part of this group and to help you out, guys. So it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you, Victor. And so, you know, if you like to learn like I do, Ronny and Victor are exceptional teachers, as you'll see tonight, but they both have, as part of their instructor certifications, they have lectures coming up. And Ronny's is on Tuesday. It's a very, very big day for Ronny. He knows one of his topics. He won't get the other one until 24 hours beforehand. And then Victor will be giving 2 nights of lectures as well. Ronny's already given one of his nights. So please join. I also mentioned we do a lot of volunteer work. On Saturday, we will be volunteering at the Family Cafe in Orlando. It's the largest conference for people with disabilities and their families. And we're volunteering at the pool at the Hyatt Regency Hotel there. We also have an event in June where we're volunteering with people with disabilities, and we're going to use the Florida A&M University pool. So anytime you need some volunteer hours, you just let us know. It's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. We love your help, and your scholarship, your tuition goes to fund scholarships for people with disabilities, including Ronny, who Ronny has been able to get lots of certifications and specialties thanks to everyone's scholarship funds being provided. So thank you. Let's do introductions of everyone who's here. I do want to confirm. Yes, perfect. So the previously certified individuals are Bobby, Tom, Aaron, Miles, Frank, and Jeff, right?
Correct.
Excellent. So yeah, let's just begin and make sure that we get everybody. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and you know, why you want to learn scuba diving other than going to camp. So Bobby, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I'm Bobby Bull. I'm one of the right now the church liaison for our troops. So my son Zach will introduce himself. Has been in the troop for 2 years now. I was a scout, did not make it to Eagle, but wanted to make sure, you know, Zach's had the chance, and he's been, you know, make sure he's had a chance to get involved. But I was certified a while ago, and I wanted to get back in the water and do it again because I remember how great it was, and just want to get my education and ready to get back out there. So
Great. Jeff?
Yes, Jeff Beasley, Eagle Scout back in 1989 in the Gulf Coast Council out of Pensacola. Spent about 20 years in law enforcement. Last 3 years, I've been running a land and tree service here in Tallahassee. And obviously, I'm Jackson's dad, been involved in the troop for about a year now. Dove about 15 years ago, started diving, dove for about 8 or 9 years, and just sort of moving around. Just once I got to Tallahassee, we just didn't do it as much as we did when we were living in South Florida and in Pensacola, but looking forward to getting back involved.
Great. And your son is here? Jackson?
Yes, he's actually calling in from Orlando. He's in Disney World.
Oh, lucky you.
Some of us have to work for a living.
Right. Jackson, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
I'm Jackson Beasley. I've been in the troop for about a year and a half now, fixing it 2 years. Like my dad said, I'm in Orlando, and I learned how to dive mainly, I don't know, just to learn a new skill and be able to experience it. It seems like a really cool thing to know.
It is. All right. Zach.
My name's Zach. I've been in the troop for about 2 years now. I just want to learn scuba diving because I think it'll be a fun skill.
Good. All right. Frank and Jack.
Hey there, Frank Langford. Yeah, I was never in the Scouts. Just left the British Army about 3 years ago. Came to Tallahassee. I did a lot of diving in the UK, so it was a lot of dry suit, cold weather diving. It'd be nice to get into a wetsuit and do some warm water diving. Looking forward to it. And we've got my son Jack here.
Hi, my name's Jack. I've been in the troop for how many months?
Less than 6.
Less than 6 months, and yeah, I just want to learn how to dive for fun.
Awesome. All right. Miles.
Hi, sorry. I'm Miles Taylor. I was a Girl Scout, much like Gabrielle. Didn't go too terribly far, but I did really enjoy my time there. I volunteer with the troop, so I'm actually pretty involved in 109, even though I don't go on the camping trips and stuff. I'm really excited about getting back into diving yet again with Gabrielle. I took a refresher course with her a few years ago and was diving with my husband before that. I'm really excited too because we've been snorkeling as a family quite a bit and kayaking as a family quite a bit. So I'm really excited that my son now wants to do this too. So I will turn it over to Sydney.
Hi, I'm Sydney Pasco. I've been in 109 for about 2 years, and I think this is an interesting thing to do, not just for fun, but looking into it as a career path. It just seems interesting altogether. But yeah, I'm mainly in it for fun.
Nice. What were you thinking about with career path, Sydney?
Yeah, along with the marine biologist levels or test scuba diver. I don't know. I just find the jobs interesting, and with sea life and all that jazz, I just think that'd be something I could look into.
Absolutely. And Victor is the man to talk to because he has a lot of really cool projects that he gets to work on. And also we have a recording of his last lecture where you can check out fish identification and other neat things that he can teach. So excellent. Russell.
Yep, I'm Rusty Holman, and this is Wesley Holman, and I think he's been part of the troop for like 6 months.
Just let me do this.
Oh, and neither one of us has ever scubaed before, but we've snorkeled and we like getting out and fishing and being out on the ocean, so we're pretty excited.
Yeah, and a lot of our relatives have scuba dived before.
Yep.
Nice.
And
You
I also want
said
to
scuba dived. I'm impressed. That is grammatically correct.
Really?
It's not scuba dove. Good job. Yes.
And I also want to do it because we do a lot of fishing and I have no clue what the structures down there look like. And so if I can go down there and see where the fish hang, it's going to be easier.
That's
Thanks,
true. That's very true. All right, Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Proctor. I'm here with Henry. I was certified when I was at FSU my junior year, which was a really long time ago at this point, and did a lot of diving up until about, well, once I got married and had kids and got pulled in a lot of different directions. So now I'm glad that Henry's given me a good excuse to get certified again and get back in the water. And I was also a scout in Troop 109, did not make it to Eagle, but was there many years ago. And I'll turn it over to Henry.
Hello, I'm Henry. I've been in the troop for close to a year, and I'm just interested in diving, and I think it could be a fun learning experience.
For sure. Very nice. Thank you. Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I just think diving would be a cool skill to learn.
Yeah, no doubt. Max.
Oh, Andrew, don't forget to introduce your sister.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the camera was not on your sister. Thank you. Caitlin, we can't hear you right now. Can you say that again?
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm Andrew's sister, and I really enjoy the outdoors. So I think scuba diving.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the outdoors too. Thank you. Max.
Hi, I'm Max Kobelski. I've been with Troop 109 for probably over 7 years now. Thomas is my second child in the troop, so I've done a lot of adventures with them, but never any scuba diving. I grew up on the water, riding boats, fishing, swimming, and things like that, but never had tanks or anything like that. So this is all new to me, and I'm looking forward to learning about it.
Great.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Thomas Kowalski, and I want to learn how to scuba dive. It's really fun. Yeah.
For sure. All right, Jason.
Hello, I'm Eisen Elder. I don't know why I'm here.
Oh, come on.
Scuba diving.
I'm Jason Elder. I was not in Boy Scouts. I just think this trip we're going to take in a year is a trip of a lifetime, and just really looking forward to learning the skill and enjoying this trip.
Where are you going in a year?
Where is the location? Bobby.
Okay, yeah, we're going down to Isle of Murad to the
yeah
to the BSA sea base, national sea base down there. So we'll have a whole week, and that's the reason why we're getting everybody certified. So we're not going down for certification. We're going down and we're going to be spending 6 full days of diving.
Yeah, this is so smart to get certified before you go there so you can actually enjoy it. Also, we are extremely active divers, and so we encourage you after you earn your certification to dive with us so that by the time you get there, you're going to be so good and so experienced and comfortable in the water that you truly get to enjoy it. Okay. All right, Colton. That was Finn, by the way, the dog that just jumped on my lap.
Hey, I'm Colton. I'm a Star Scout. I've been in the troop for about 2.5 years, and I'm excited to take this class because there's a lot of things that you can see under the water that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see without being able to scuba dive. So yeah, I'm excited.
Good. Thank you. Did we miss anyone? Anyone join late? Okay. All right. Well, so then the next thing we need to do is schedule another pool session. So And let me ask you, is there anyone, I did put in the chat box. I put in the chat box to please complete a form. It's tinyurl.com/109scouts. It's a super short, quick, easy form where you're going to put your name, height, and weight. That way I can make sure I have correct sizing for everybody for your scuba equipment. Okay. If you already have scuba equipment by any chance, those of you who are already certified, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm actually going to be purchasing some additional scuba gear to make sure that I have everybody fitted. So yeah, that's a form. Now let's look at our calendars. Our first scuba pool session is Saturday, July 9th. When, I don't know how best to do this. I'm going to throw some dates out there and you tell me if they're going to work for you in terms of other possible dates to have pool sessions. July 23rd. July 23rd, Saturday, July 23rd. Yes, for Homans?
Well, actually, we're going to be coming back from Daniel Boone, I believe, that weekend, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was just checking.
Yeah,
so-
the Saturday, the 23rd will be a travel day back from North
Okay,
Carolina.
how about the 30th or the 31st? Let's go with the 31st if it's better for you, Sunday the 31st. Because I think Victor has a big session on the 30th.
When do you?
The 31st.
You want us to put this in the chat?
Yeah, or just say, or just say, if anyone cannot make it, just say no. Otherwise, I'm going to assume everyone can make it.
I can't
No
do
for the
it.
30th, 31st for Miles. Okay, let's find another date. Let's look at the following weekends. Let's look at the 7th.
Good. That's good for us.
Okay.
Should be good for us too.
The 7th.
Yeah, Langford's should be okay with that one.
All right. So far, so good. Anyone a no?
Beasley's are good.
Awesome. Miles. Okay. I think you'll be fine because you've already been certified and refreshed. And you will have had one full day in the pool. As long as Sid can be there, that's good. Anyone else? All right, we're a go then. We have our pool session dates. So we have Sunday, August 7th. Now, let's look at checkout dives. Checkout dives. Did you have a chance to look at the email that I sent with some options? What I like to do with the first one is I really like to do springs first because they're a little easier to control, the elements, the conditions. We do sometimes need to move locations after we've chosen one. Like tomorrow, several of us are diving for fun and we had picked Morrison Springs for tomorrow, but then this deluge of rain came and it made it not so nice there. So we're going somewhere else. So that kind of thing can happen. Do you all have preferences about where you want to dive based on all the descriptions that I sent you? I can tell you my favorite places and maybe you can tell me if you thought they were cool. So one of my favorite places for training dives is Blue Grotto. Blue Grotto Dive Resort. It's awesome. There's a super friendly turtle there. Actually, there's two turtles, but one is really, really friendly and it's a lot of fun. And what I'd like to do is see if we can get, we definitely don't need 20 people there all at once necessarily. I'd like to book different dates and, conceivably we could do 2 groups. If we all went to Blue Grotto and just make it a long day, we could do like an A team and a B team. So we don't have 20 people in the water at the same time. But if that doesn't work, then we can pick and Russell, just so you know, the warmest spring is Blue Grotto. It's 73 degrees year round. So there is no warmer spring than Blue Grotto. So that's another reason I like it. Cause I'll tell you what, it makes a big difference between 68 and 73 when you're in the water. So as I was saying, we can pick a couple of dates And if everyone can make a certain date, then we'll split you so that we don't have everybody in the water all at the same time. So let's look at August 13th or 14th.
Yes, for the Bulls.
Okay. Can anyone else make the, let's just say the 14th? Sundays tend to be
Yeah,
quieter
9th
at
is
Blue
good.
Grotto.
Yeah, I think so.
So we have how many total? And on the 14th, we'll plan on the 14th. Okay, we got the Geyers, we've got the Beasleys, the Elders, the Taylors. Okay, Langford's great.
Oh.
We have one date. Another thing we could do for those of you who don't like to travel a lot is we could dive at Big Blue. Not as warm of a spring, but it's nice and local for anyone who is pushed for time. It's really nice because we paddle to the dive site. Okay, got the Bulls as well on the 14th. So we'll plan on a big long day on the 14th at Blue Grotto, and we'll have a good time. So I recommend Big Blue for anyone who wants to keep it a little more local. Anyone who maybe doesn't have as much time. It is a nice paddle to the dive site of about 1 mile, and it's a beautiful site. It's not good for big groups of people. So I would say this would be good for, maybe 6 or so people. Maybe even on a weekday after school work kind of thing, to beat the crowds. So let me know how you feel about that. And if so, I will recommend a date for that. I would recommend let me just pick a date here. We could do the
Will this be for the first dive, or would this be good? Would you want to do an open water for the second?
Yeah, so this could be for people who couldn't make Blue Grotto, or it could be for people who just want to get additional experience before doing some ocean dives. It could be, for anyone really, and we can do multiple dives there. So somebody suggested the 28th. Okay, I was thinking of a weekday, since we'd probably have less people, but we could do a dive on the 28th. I could pick another site. If we do, let me back it up a little bit before the 28th. Okay, so let's choose the 17th or 18th. The 17th or 18th for Big Blue, after work, school kind of thing. The 17th or 18th. Let me know if that works for anybody. And if it doesn't, I'll just pick the weekend. Okay, we got one for the 18th. Yay. Anyone else? Okay, awesome. We got at least maybe 4 people. Anyone else make the 18th?
I think so for the Bulls. I'll double check.
Okay, good. And we'll closer to the date, we'll figure out the time, but kind of after work, school kind of thing would be great. If we could get out there by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that would be nice. Beat the darkness.
Okay. The only problem is they're all middle school, and public school doesn't get out till 3:50.
3:50.
So that might
Well, what time does it get dark in August?
probably 8 o'clock, 8:30.
That's pushing it. All right, so we'll do a weekend instead. Oh, well. So let's see here.
How much time do we need for an afternoon, evening class like that?
I would say, it's on the far east side of town, so it would take people a little while to get there, but we need about 3 hours.
So if we got there by 5, would that be reasonable?
I'm not sure what
Or the-
time it gets dark in August. I can't recall the time that it gets dark. If it's 9
It'd
o'clock,
be 8:30 would be, too dark to see.
so yeah, so I don't know that that's going to work.
Yeah, some of us would be, leaving town at 5 and we'd be getting there.
Yeah, let's just pick a weekend instead. So let's pick something sooner so we can do some ocean dives after that. Okay.
Should we go back to the 28th or sooner than that, you mean?
Sooner than that. I'd like to do sooner than that if possible. We could do the 28th. We could do ocean dive. Anyone want to do Panama City then?
That sounds nice.
Yeah, I love, so we have two options for Panama City. One is a charter boat, which is my favorite. It's an additional expense of about $92 a person, but they really take care of you and you get to go out on a really nice dive boat. And it's the true scuba experience where you'll get to dive on a shipwreck and it's a lot of fun. So, okay. So the 28th, let me know. And again, I wouldn't want everybody to be there. I'll go ahead and plan on, splitting the groups if possible. It'd be really hard to manage 20 people. So would much rather have about 10, maybe, less is fine. So we've got the Beasleys, the Proctors, and hang on a second, I'm seeing, okay.
Yeah,
That
that sounds like something we can make a weekend out of.
Yeah. So I'm gonna reserve a boat for the 28th. Now, here's the cool thing. If some of you can make other dives before then, you would be certified by then, and you would be an already certified diver by the 28th. If we could back it up and find another date. Yeah.
And I guess in answer Colton's question, no, we don't, for certification, we don't need to make every dive correct as long as we get our
Correct.
two.
Two
Okay.
days of diving.
Okay.
So right now we have the 7th, the 14th, and the 28th.
Right. We have the 7th, the 14th. Then the 7th is a pool session. We have the 14th and the 28th. So what about the 21st? Is anyone available on the 21st? Maybe we'll do another spring dive.
Yes.
So are we talking about August or July here? I know we moved
We're in
into
August. We're in August. We cannot dive until August because we don't have a pool session until August. So
Yeah,
our
no,
second pool
cool.
session is August 7th.
Yeah, got it.
So the 21st. All right, the elders can make the 21st. Bulls, I think the Proctors, the Taylors. Okay, good. We got a good amount of people. So if you can make those, then you'll already be certified by the 28th. And we'll go ahead and add some additional dates. Now we're getting into football season, so. All right.
It doesn't affect everybody, Gabrielle.
I know it affects a lot of people though. So let's see, Labor Day weekends, and we'll skip that. I'm in New York for September 11th, so we'll skip that. The 17th, 18th. Let's go with the 18th. And we could do another Panama City trip then for those who can't make the other date. Or we could do the jetties, or we could do a spring, or we could just decide later.
I like the idea of more of the ocean dives.
Yeah, I love ocean dives.
I was gonna say, I like the warm water.
Me too. It's going to be beautiful by then too. By the way, it's already really warming up. So by the time you're diving, it'll be in the 80s, well in the 80s, which we love. All of us in the leadership team are pretty wimpy when it comes to getting in cold water. So we like it warm. So yeah, why don't we plan on another Panama City dive, and we can decide closer to the date if we want to do a charter boat or the jetties dive. The jetties dive is definitely physically challenging, very physically challenging. There's a lot of lugging gear, and it's a lot less predictable. It's a lot less predictable. So I'll have to check the tides and everything else, but we can decide that closer to the date. We have time. So, all right. So I'll tell you what, I think a good start. Does everyone have 2 dates that they're able to make of the ones that we listed so far?
Yes.
Yeah, Langford's have.
Good, good. Anyone not?
Andrew, Caitlin, yeah, just check with your mom if with those dates before we get off the call real quick. That'd probably be good.
Yeah, and listen, if for some reason you're not able to make any, maybe only one of the 4 dates, I'll add more. I'll add plenty more. So I want everyone to get as much experience as possible diving. So, all right, that was the hardest part with scheduling tonight.
Gabrielle,
Yes.
a quick question, probably similar for Erin. My wife is interested, but she's not, able to make it to this class. Is she able to catch up with us?
Yes, she can actually. I have another group of students that are ready to begin. They'll start. Those who've registered, I've just sent them a message in the last day, asking for their general availability, and we'll start that class in June. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, so definitely have her register, and maybe even put, just put in the notes section that she's, taking the class separately, but wants to dive, with you. And then I'll make it happen so that you could even do some checkout dives together.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the hardest part is over with, I think. Let me jump back to the screen sharing. And I'm seeing that I'm getting some direct messages. I haven't had a chance to check them yet, but I will shortly. Okay. Okay.
I guess Colton had a question.
Oh, sure.
Colton, yeah, the pool sessions are, I guess both pool sessions are required, correct?
Both pool sessions are required. You must make both pool sessions.
So Colton, we can talk. Yeah, we can talk later, Colton. We can maybe try to figure out a session available also.
Okay, is there someone who's not available?
Colton was just asking about the date.
Okay. So we're just not sure if Colton can make it, or what's happening?
Yeah, Colton. Hey, Colton, is the August 7th a problem for your schedule?
No, I think I'll be fine. I just wanted to see if it was like required just in case.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we'll have the two required pools and the 2 required open water dives.
All right, I should be fine then.
Okay, great. Thank you. Love the dogs and cats in the pictures. Awesome. So let's get started. We're going to dive into scuba, and with module 1, we just did introductions. You already know the times, costs, and what's included. It's all in the email too, but essentially I provide all your scuba gear. So that includes your BCD, your regulator set, your cylinders, your weight belt, your weights, your wetsuits. If you already have a wetsuit, let me know, but I do have a bunch. And then the requirements for certification are that you need to make 2 days of diving that are going to include 2 scuba dives and a skin dive on one day, and then 2 scuba dives on another day. And again, I need to know everyone's height and weight for sizing. I did put it in the chat box if you'll complete that form. It's a very brief form where you're going to say your name, your height, and your weight. And then if I don't hear from you, I'll just try to chase you down and get that information. I need to do that because I know I have some smaller people because I have younger people in the class, and I want to make sure I have enough sizes for everybody. And if not, I'll order some extras to make sure that we have them. So why Scuba Educators International? It is a longer course. It's approximately 32 hours of class and pool time. We focus on education rather than marketing. So you probably heard about some of the others a little bit more, but you'll see that we're very much focused on education. I have a PhD in education, by the way. So it's in educational psychology and learning systems, instructional systems. So I love Scuba Educators International because it really is focused on education. It's focused on diving comfort in the real world, and we have a concern for how students learn. It's a chance to expand your life and see the other half of the world, an amazing world. All right, question 1, what does scuba mean? Who can tell me what scuba means? And I'd actually love to hear from the scouts because I have a feeling some of the parents may already know this. who are already certified. So any of the scouts, tell me, what does scuba stand for?
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Very good. And where are you reading that?
From the book.
Very good. Excellent. As hey, half the knowledge, the key to knowledge is where to find knowledge, right? So self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Who do we have to thank for it? Question 2. Who do we have to thank for scuba? Anyone? I'd love to hear from the scouts. Who do you think? Okay, well, what about the parents? I know you know.
Jacques Cousteau.
Excellent, Jacques Cousteau.
Frenchman.
Jacques Cousteau. By the way, I have dived with Jacques Cousteau's son in Fiji, and I am known on TripAdvisor as Sunshine Diver, and I do post a lot of reviews. And the worst experience diving I've ever had was in Fiji with Cousteau Resort, and I put in the title of it is Jacques Cousteau would roll over in his grave. So, but just read it and you'll see why. So the world beneath the sea is awesome. It's so much fun. You're suspended, you're weightless, you feel free. You heard Ronny say before that those of us who have pain goes away when we scuba dive. It feels amazing. Living on a coral reef, there's so much life around you, little things that you can't even see are there living. So we don't touch anything. So the course outline follows the Learn Scuba Diving by Tom Laird textbook, which you all have in your packets. And tonight we're going to cover modules 1 and 2. And then we'll have 2 more lecture nights. And then the 4th lecture night is actually exam review. One thing I wanted to ask you before we go on is, are you happy with having the sessions by Zoom, or would you rather meet in person for the lectures?
Zoom works well for making sure everyone can be there. For me, it is. So
I'm fine with keeping it by Zoom. Okay, so we'll keep it by Zoom. Now, the diving community in our area is actually really strong. We only have 1 dive shop here in Tallahassee, but we have a very active community of divers through Scuba Friends. So if you're on Facebook, join Scuba Friends, not Scuba Friends of Tallahassee. That guy copied me, just Scuba Friends, and you'll see all the fun things that we're doing. And when you get certified, after you go down to the Keys and get to enjoy that, you really might want to do some other fun things like liveaboards, which I love to do. This is where you just eat, sleep, dive. And I get to do those all over the world, certainly before the pandemic, especially. Your certification card is worldwide recognized. I've never had anyone say, what is SEI? Everyone knows it. And you will receive that at the end of your training. Now, those of you who are under the age of 15 will be junior open water divers. You will be junior open water divers. And then when you turn 15, if you prove to me that you've kept up your training and you're mature and you can answer some questions, we can convert you to adult at age 15 in scuba. So there's classroom training, pool training, and then, as I mentioned, open water training, which you can make additional dives, but the ones you need to make are 2 full days of diving that include, the first day is going to include 2 scuba dives and 1 skin dive, and the second day will be 2 scuba dives. Your certification will be an open water diver that will certify you to 60 feet deep. All certifying agencies have the same requirement. So you're going to be certified to 60 feet. Now, the training progression, should you want to go a little bit further, there's kind of leader levels and diver levels. I encourage people to go leader, and then the specialties are really helpful. So if after open water you are loving the experience and you wanted to continue, the next most logical thing that I would recommend is taking the combination advanced nitrox diving. So it's advanced diver level 2 and nitrox, the specialty certification. I do a combination class that'll get you certified to 100 feet, not for people under the age of 15. You won't be able to go to 100 feet because dive science is still not there yet. So you would still be limited to 60 feet, but you'd get to do everything else. And so that's what I recommend next. And then you see we have people in training who are all in this area of leaders that you'll get to meet. So the course materials, if you haven't gotten it yet, you'll have a textbook. You'll have 2 workbooks. One is homework and one is class notes. We do not check your homework in this class. If you really want to learn a lot, you do a little extra homework and it'll help you. But we just assume that you are going to do a good job with reading the textbook, taking notes, paying attention. The logbook is also included on every dive. You need to bring your dive log and your dive tables. We will not be going over dive log and dive tables until the next lecture, but they are really important. Medical requirements. Many of you emailed your forms to me. Please, please, please print them out and make sure you answer YES and NO. Don't put a Y or an N. Don't put tick marks. Don't put anything. You have to, you know how legal people are. You have to actually write yes or no. And you only need to involve your doctor if you answered yes to any questions. Please bring printed copies of those forms when we meet. Now, diving dates back to, really 3000 BC with free diving. Helmet divers were around as far ago as 1837 with air compressors. Jacques Cousteau in 1943 had demand scuba, so he really initiated what we know today to be scuba diving. The first YMCA instructor course was in 1959. Those of you who were around in 2008 know that we had a lot of kind of the same thing that's happening right now with the economy happened in 2008, and some decisions were made. YMCA made the decision to do away with scuba. And what happened was several instructor trainers at the time said, we can't let it go. This is too important of a program. And so they came to an agreement and continued the same exact standards under Scuba Educators International. Are there any risks in scuba diving? What do you think, guys? Are there any risks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course there are risks,
Yeah.
right? There's risks in everything. There's risks in walking out the door. There's risks in getting in a car. So yeah, there are risks in scuba diving. The biggest risks have to do with pressure related things. So body airspace is like clearing your ears. How many of you have ever been on a plane before? Okay. Those of you who've been on a plane, do you know how to clear your ears on a plane? It works kind of the same way. And we'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to share some methods with you of clearing your ears, but body air spaces are the biggest concern. So you got to know how to clear your ears. And then decompression illness is another concern, but we don't really, if you're trained well and you dive your plan, you're not going to have a problem with that. So you need to have training and you need to be refreshed. Contraindicators to diving include seizures, pregnancy, and lung conditions. The goal is to minimize risk and maximize enjoyment. The biggest risk has to do with breath holding. So whenever the regulator is out of your mouth, we ask you to blow bubbles so we see you not holding your breath. Always exhale when you're ascending. Don't hold your breath. Divers Alert Network insurance is something that I am providing to you. So that's one reason I need all your paperwork. You will be getting emails closer to the pool date that will tell you what your certification number is with Divers Alert Network. This is a nonprofit organization based in Durham, North Carolina, an excellent organization. So again, I will enroll you for free, and then I highly recommend you continue it. It's only like $35 a year or something, and it's wonderful. Now, you are going to need skin diving equipment. I'm providing all your scuba equipment. You will need skin diving equipment. What is skin diving equipment? This is a mask, snorkel, fins, and boots. So there are many different kinds of masks that you can get. Some have peripheral vision, some do not. Some, really fit is the most important thing. Snorkels don't get a dry snorkel, get a most basic snorkel. Don't get a dry snorkel with the big bubble on the top. You don't need that for scuba. In fact, it's going to get in the way. And then you want to get actual proper boots. I like 5mm boots, not summer boots. Nice booties. And then the fins have a strap on the back. So you don't want the full fins. You want the one with a strap on the back that works well with boots. Again, with a mask, the most important thing is not going to be the color, although I'm really into colors. It's going to be fit. So pick a mask that fits you well. Go to Coral Reef Scuba if you don't already have a mask, and you're going to get fitted. You're going to actually put it on your face without the strap on, kind of suck in, and then take your hands off. And if it sticks, then it fits. And the people at Coral Reef Scuba can help you. And yeah, Jacob put for the open water books. Jacob is brand new, by the way, on our leadership team. And he is also a new employee of Coral Reef Scuba and someone that I certified years ago when he was 15. And Jacob joined us late because he was driving back to his town where he lives. But you'll get to meet him as well. He said it's a good idea to keep the open water books because they're very useful and you may need to read them again. I agree with that. So does anyone wear contacts or have corrective vision? Anyone? Some? Okay. I wear contacts when I dive. You can see I'm wearing glasses. I wear contacts when I dive and it's not a problem. I do the pool session. I open my eyes. It's not a problem. If you have really bad vision and you want to get corrective lenses put on your mask, you can do so at Coral Reef. Okay. I personally don't like that because if I'm on a boat and I have to be switching between my glasses and the mask, and it's not fun for me. I'd rather just wear my contacts. Snorkels. Again, avoid the ones with a big ball at the top, the dry snorkels. Just get a really basic snorkel. Make sure that it's just a basic snorkel. Fins. There's all kinds of fins that you can get. I do not recommend split fins. Every time I've worn split fins, I get foot cramps. Now, if you already have split fins, that's fine, but you just need a basic fin with the strap so that it can fit a boot. And there are many different varieties. The lowest line that you can buy is a Tusa. And Tusa is the very first fin that I bought, the brand that I bought. And I'm telling you, they last forever. They last forever. They'll last you decades. So Tusa is kind of the bottom of the line. And then the middle is like Cressy. Now I have the biggest, fanciest Italian made ones. And I'm telling you, they're not that much better than any other. So you don't need to spend all the money. Just get fins that you like, that fit you well. And the boot is important. Get a 5mm boot, not the summer boot. Okay. Any questions to this point? Okay. Does anyone already have a mask fin snorkel boots?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Victor's going to take over from here.
Yeah, thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you.
And please feel free to mute yourself if through the lecture you have any question. Just bring that up and we can discuss about it. So to continue with this first lecture, it's very important to have an introduction to the science behind diving. And for that, it's very important for us to know our body, okay, our anatomy, because some of the risks that Gabrielle was mentioning about has to do with how the pressure and air interact while we dive. And especially, you know, our ears, because we have our ear canal or outer ear, and then we have our middle ear, and our middle ear is filled with air. So it will be affected by the pressure. And then we have the inner ear, which is like takes more care of our balance, right? And then other aspects in our anatomy is our lungs, where all the exchange of air occurs. So we have our nose, sinus, or through our mouth. Then we go to our trachea that connects to our lungs. We have 2 lungs, one on each side, which are protected by the ribs, right? And then if we see in detail, the exchange of air to our bloodstreams occurs in very small cells that are called in the bronchia and the alveolus. Okay, those are covered by capillary, which is just very tiny veins where this interaction occurs. So we have to be aware, aware of how our body or anatomy is structure, because we're gonna discuss some of these aspects later in the lecture. Let me see if I can move to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so some really important aspects that we need to be aware is that, especially as open water divers, first, the gas that we're gonna be breathing is compressed air. So air is the composition of air is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and then we have 1% other gases like argon and others. So in the blood, the red cells have contained the hemoglobin, and it's about 45% of the blood, and that element, the hemoglobin, is the one that carries the oxygen in and the carbon dioxide out. So, when you breathe in, you breathe oxygen, and our cells use the oxygen, but once they metabolize the oxygen, they produce carbon dioxide. So when you breathe out, you're breathing more carbon dioxide than the oxygen that you're breathing in. Other aspects that most of the divers can suffer, especially during skin diving, is hyperventilation. And that is just like trying to breathe too quickly, very often, that rise the levels of carbon dioxide in your blood and can induce to blackout, especially when you're snorkeling. When you go too deep and you start ascending, if you build up your carbon dioxide too high, you can have a blackout, which is basically faint in the water. And here is how it works. So if you are breathing normally, I don't know if you see my cursor here in the left, top left, we have a baseline, okay? So we have enough oxygen as we breathe. And then when we start or dive right here, we hold our breath. And as we go down, our body is using that oxygen, right? So the level of oxygen starts to decrease. On the other hand, we see the blue line. Here we see that the carbon dioxide starts to build up. So as the oxygen decreases, the carbon dioxide increases. And then we ascend, we come to the surface, and we take another breath, and then we build up a little bit more of oxygen in our body, but then we dive again. And as we see, the possibility of the carbon dioxide increasing is again building up, and that's why we can have these hyperventilations.
So just to clarify, hyperventilation happens with skin diving. There is actually a test item about that. So it's not a concern for scuba divers, but as people push the limits with skin diving, they actually station scuba divers because they are known to pass out on the way back up from a deep dive. And Jacob, who's on here, the newest member of our leadership team, has firsthand experience with passing out while freediving, right, Jacob? Yeah. So he put in the chat box. Yeah, he did. He did. And so thankfully his mother was there and saved him. So skin diving is definitely something you have to be careful with hyperventilation.
Yeah, and we discussed this because it can happen to any one of us, as just Gabrielle mentioned with Jacob, right? Okay, so we are passing from one element to the other. So we're going from the air, which is, you know, where we live, into the underwater water. So the density of the water is 800 times more than the air, right? So that creates different drag forces. So we're going to be wearing all this equipment or cylinder or BCDs or buoyancy compensator device or fins, the regulators and the gauge hanging. So all that will create a force, and that drag force will demand more effort from us to move through this element, which is the water, right? So that's something that we also need to be aware of. Also, when the light goes from air to the water, the light travels about 27% slower in the water, and that is why about 200 with very good water clarity conditions, the light can only go down about 200 meters underwater, and then is complete darkness. We're going to discuss, well, I'm just going to mention this pretty quick, but through the lectures, we're going to talk about buoyancy, and the Archimedes principle is the one that explains how we control our buoyancy. Why are we positive buoyant? That means staying towards the surface, or negative buoyant, which means that we tend to sink. And another aspect that we're going to talk a lot through all these lectures is pressure, because as we go down in the water, the pressure increases. And these two numbers, so every 33 feet of seawater, the pressure is going to increase by 14.7 absolute pressure. And we're going to go into those details later in this lecture as well. So when we talk about the relationship between pressure and volume, we are talking about Boyle's law. And this is very important for you to learn because it's going to be in the exam, okay? So what the Boyle's law says is basically that as you go into deeper, you are exposed to more pressure because the weight of the water is exerting this pressure in everything that we have in our body or air cavities, and that air is going to be compressed by that pressure. So as we go down, the volume of air is going to be reduced by that pressure. But then when we surface again, the pressure is going to be reduced, and then the volume is going to expand again. So there is an inverse relationship. The greater the pressure, the lower the volume, and inverse. The lowest the pressure, the higher is the volume. And then here we have the how we measure that, and is using the atmospheric pressure. So at surface level, we have 1 absolute atmosphere. And then as we go 33 feet of seawater, is going to increase 1 extra atmosphere absolute. So at 33 feet, we're going to have 2 atmosphere absolute, which is 1 by the water and 1 atmosphere absolute by the air. Okay, so this is very important too. And why is this important? Because as we go down, we have different air cavities in our body, and you know, in our equipment. The mass, for example, is creating an air space between our eyes and the water. So as we go down, that air in our mass is going to start compressing our face, all right? And it's creating what is here expressed as the squeeze. So, but that is very easy to manage underwater with just releasing a little bit of air through our nose into the mask, for example. Or if we have some pressure in our ears, we do the clearing our ears. There are different techniques that we're going to go through our presentation as well. And then we avoid suffering from this squeeze. Other effects that Boyle's law have is the breathing volume. So the air is also that we're breathing is also suffering from that pressure and it's compressed, so it gets more dense. As I mentioned, air clearing, the mass squeeze, and our wetsuit is going to be compressed. As we go down, the pressure also will compress or wetsuit, and as it compresses, it's going to be, it gets more dense and then it gets heavier. So we have to be compensated our buoyancy as we go deeper or we ascend. And of course, we need to avoid any pressure injuries. Okay, so we talk about Boyle's law. Then another law that is very important in scuba diving is Dalton's law. Okay, so Dalton's law, what it says is that the total of it talks about partial pressures of the gases in a mix. So we already described that the air that we breathe is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% others. Each one of them acts independently, and but the partial pressures have an effect on us as scuba divers. Then the next law that is also very important is Henry's law. And when we talk about this, it's just how our body absorbs gases, okay, and especially nitrogen. And as we said before, 78% of the air that we breathe is nitrogen. So a lot of these gases under pressure is absorbed by our body. So imagine a bottle of soda. It's just like that. If you see the bottle here, you see nothing. You just see the liquid. Okay, so the gas in this space is CO2, but when you open the can, then all these bubbles that were stabilizing on the pressure there start to escape. And that's exactly what can happen in our body if we don't let this outgas from our body. It sounds redundant, but it's just like that. So it relates to nitrogen in your body. It relates on ascent, especially, and it causes, and one of the accidents that we don't want to suffer, which is decompression sickness. And we're going to go into the details of decompression sickness as well. Okay, so another aspect is air consumption. Some people will consume air more than others. And this is a common question, like how long will my air last? And that will depend on different factors, right? The density of air increase with that, as we said. So 1 hour at surface, it means that you're gonna, it will last half an hour at 33 feet or 1/4 hour at 99 feet. But also other aspects, like if you are doing some effort underwater, if the water temperature is too cold or warmer, or if you, for example, have anxiety and you're breathing like too fast, of course, your air consumption rates will vary. So it's not a standard for everyone. And it's very important for us to control our air consumption. Another aspect is when we are underwater, we are losing some of our heat. So to avoid that, we can control our body temperature, but we lose heat faster than our body can produce it. So to avoid that, we use the proper protection. In this case, the wetsuits or dry suits, depending if you are going in, for example, diving in ice, you will use a dry suit. But it is recommended for SEI that when the water temperature is 80 or below, for you to use some kind of protection or some kind of wetsuit. Okay, we mentioned that the light travels 25.7% lower in water than in air. So, and that affects the different characteristic of light underwater, and that makes the objects underwater to appear closer and larger. So usually you will say, "Oh, did you see that fish that was like this big?" Well, it might have really be a little bit smaller, and you said like, "Oh, you almost bite my finger," and it might have been a little bit away. So in these two pictures, you can see that it is actually 8 feet, and it will look like 6 feet closer to you. On the sides, it might be a 3 feet of fish, and you will have the perception that it was about 4 feet big. So how are you going to describe what you see on the water to your friends? And you need to take this into consideration. And also remember that underwater, the colors are also change. Another really interesting aspect is that the sound in the water travels faster than air. And in a solid, is gonna travel even faster than in a liquid. So the denser the element is, the faster the sound is going to travel, right? So if you hear a sound underwater, it's almost perceivable. I don't know if that's the correct word. Where the sound is coming from, because you will perceive the sound in both ears at the same time. If you are in the air, you will hear, because the speed of the sound allows you to perceive where the sound is coming, because first it will come to one ear and then to the other ear, so you can perceive where it's coming from. But in underwater, that's not the case. So underwater, you can talk, so it's very difficult to hear your body talk, and it's very hard to tell the direction of sounds. And maybe you have heard that, being on the water, you hear a boat coming, but it's really hard to tell. So you have to surface and look around to see where the boat is coming from. Okay, so as a summary of this module, we talk about anatomy effects in water, respiration and circulation, some basics of buoyancy and drag and how that affects us as a divers, and then light and sound. And most important, one of the aspects that we're going to be talking a lot about in this presentation is pressure. All is caused by changes in the density. Remember, we're passing from the air to a denser element, which is the water. Any question to this point? Let me open the chat to see. I don't see any question here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and Ronny is going to take over.
Resize real quick.
Thank you, Victor. While we're waiting on Ronny, Jacob, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? You joined us a little bit late.
Hi. Hang on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jacob. I've been diving for 5 years, I think, somewhere around that mark. I free dive and scuba dive, and I'm currently in training for nitrox advanced.
And you learned when you were 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay, Ronny.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to module 2, challenges of going underwater, your body, mind, and diving. So some diving adjustments that we're going to keep in mind. So order of the dive, you have diving physics, thermal adjustments, buoyancy, breathing, heart and lungs, in-gassing, out-gassing, and mobility adjustments. If you were watching the chat, Jacob was talking about some of the intricacies of like breathing and how that can change your buoyancy and stuff like that. So first, we're going to be talking about diving physics. So the physical differences between air and water, as well as applying the laws of physics, how they affect our bodies, and how we must adjust to those changes, depth, pressure, volumes, as well as composition and absorption. So like Victor was talking about earlier, when measuring air pressure, you can think of it as a column of air at sea level sitting on top of you. So this is where the 1 atmosphere of pressure comes from. And just a reminder, 1 atmosphere of pressure is equal to 14.7 psi. So that's important. You're going to want to know that. So, you want to think about this entire column of air sitting on top of you. But when you're underwater, that column of air doesn't go away. It's sitting on top of the water as well. And like I was saying before, an important number to remember, 1 atmosphere is 14.7 psi, or 33 feet of seawater or salt water. So Boyle's law, like we were talking about earlier, Victor mentioned, as pressure increases, your volume is going to decrease. And the reason for this is because air is compressible. So the volume varies inversely with the pressure, which means, like Victor was talking about, as you go down, volume is going to go down because of the increase in pressure. As pressure comes off, volume is going to increase. So again, looking at the densities, he was mentioning that it was 800 times more dense. So you've got 1 cubic foot of material here. So of air, you have, it's going to go. So water is approximately 800 times denser than air, like we were saying before, with 0.08 pounds per cubic foot of air. So for fresh water, so FW is fresh water, is going to 1 cubic foot of fresh water is equal to 62.4 pounds. And then the seawater is going to be equal to 64 pounds per cubic foot. And again, especially that seawater one is going to be very important for a lot of our calculations. So just to reiterate that, 1 cubic foot of seawater is equal to 64 pounds. So measuring water pressure in PSI. So like I was saying earlier, 33 feet of seawater is equal to 14.7 PSI, which is also equal to 1 atmosphere. So when you are 33 feet, so like I was mentioning before, that column of air doesn't go away just because you're underwater. So if you're 33 feet underwater, you're actually at 2 atmospheres absolute. So that's basically what this is saying here. So because 1 atmosphere is 14.7 psi, 14.7 plus 14.7 is 29.4 psi for a total pressure at 2 atmospheres absolute. So measuring in atmospheres absolute, just give you some more ideas of that. So at 0 feet, so at sea level, you're at 1 atmosphere absolute. And again, that's because you are sitting underneath 1 atmosphere. At 33 feet of seawater, you'd be sitting at 2 because you have the additional atmosphere from the water pressure. At 66 feet of seawater, you would be at 3 atmospheres absolute. And then at 99 feet of seawater, you would be at 4 atmospheres absolute. So this is going to correspond with Boyle's law. So here we have a balloon that is 1 pint. So what's going to happen is as the pressure increases, so closed volumes of air will compress as pressure increases. And what we were talking about earlier, the volume will decrease as the pressure increases. So here going down, the pressure increased by 1 atmosphere. So now you're at half of a pint. So at the surface, it was 1 pint. Now it's at half a pint. As you go down, it gets smaller, down to 1/3 of a pint and 1/4 of a pint, respectively. These are called Boyle's balloons. And then the same principle is going to happen on the way up, but in reverse. So if you were to take this 1/4 pint balloon at 4 atmospheres absolute and then bring it all the way to the surface, it would reinflate itself back to 1 pint. And that's part of the reason that free divers can do the diving that they do on 1 breath, whereas we have a very important rule in scuba diving of never holding your breath. So this also has to do with your lungs. Your lungs are an air cavity, just like Victor was talking about earlier. and are subjected to the same principles, just like your cylinder or other air cavities. So here you have a surface volume of 10 pints. As you, so you have a surface equivalent volume. So 10 pints of actual volume, but you have, because the air is 2 times denser, you actually are consuming air twice as fast. So that's what the air consumption that Victor was talking about earlier. So the deeper you are, the faster you consume air. So at 2 atmospheres, you're going to consume it twice as fast as on the surface, 3 times as fast at 66 feet, and 4 times as fast at 99 feet. And this is why, one of the reasons why you will go through air more quickly the deeper you are. So why does a scuba diver need to exhale on ascent? This is the principle that we were just talking about. So just as it works as the pressure is going down, it's going to expand as the pressure is coming off. So because your lungs are an air cavity, if you hold your breath while scuba diving, which is like I was saying earlier, we never do, your lungs are going to try to expand. When your lungs are going to try to expand past their limit, you're going to injure them, you could tear something and cause other medical issues that we will be talking about. So the cardinal rule, the reason that I'm really harping on this, cardinal rule for scuba diving, always breathe. Never hold your breath when breathing from scuba. And then here's a general graphic. So your lungs are going to be pushed past their physical limit if you're holding your breath while trying to ascend. And you could injure yourself very severely by doing this. So always breathe. It's super easy. Just regular breathing, in, out, in, out. Don't try to hold your breath or skip or anything like that. So some thermal regulations, like Gabrielle was saying, some of us get really cold while scuba diving. It's different for every person. But part of the reason for this is because water is going to wick heat away 25 times greater than air does. Your areas of greatest heat loss are going to be areas where you have veins and arteries very close, large veins and arteries close to the surface of your skin. So your armpits, your groin, your neck area all have great heat loss if you were to look at it under infrared. So part of the reasons we need to be concerned about this is overheating, especially in Florida. When we have these wetsuits on, getting towards the water, getting into the water, it's very to get overheated. And worst case scenario, you can end up into heat stroke, which can have very severe health consequences and health injuries. And we will also be talking about those later as well. So temperature extremes. So wetsuits below 80, like Victor said, that is a test question. So do know that. Wetsuits below 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Thermal suits are especially helpful too. So you see some ice divers over here in this picture. That is obviously a technical diving, and that is something that you would be trained on after you have already been certified as an open water scuba diver. We don't do it, but we know people who do it, and we can easily point you to the right people. I'm actually hoping to do cavern and cave eventually, but that's down the line. And again, I'm working on Instructor, and I still haven't even started that. So specialty courses, there's lots of them, and we will go over that too. So buoyancy at work. So here, especially the diver in the mainframe, you can see he's got some great trim. You've got great buoyancy. Everything is connected to him as close as possible so that nothing is straggling off too far, as well as with the other diver behind him. And the reason that this is important is for water clarity, for reef health, for buddy, just convenience, and just being aware of your surroundings and whatnot. So obviously, if you're on the floor, if you're kicking up a bunch of dirt or silt or whatever, you're gonna pull down the visibility. It's gonna be hard to see anything. It's gonna make the dive less enjoyable. So buoyancy is super important, especially when we're on corals and stuff like that. We don't want you injuring these corals. They take decades, if not centuries, to grow, sometimes even longer for other ones. So, this is something that we're gonna be testing you on a lot, is your buoyancy. So part of what affects your buoyancy is Archimedes' principle. So an object submerged in water will be buoyed up by the weight of the water it displaces. So in the following examples, will you float, sink, or be neutral? So go ahead and unmute yourselves, and whoever feels confident answering these questions, go for it.
We don't know what it is yet.
So for our first example, so you weigh an object and then submerge it, you catch the water that is displaced and then weigh it. And that is one of the ways to check its volume. So this rock is 1 cubic foot. That's just something to know for these examples. And something to keep in mind is 1 cubic foot of salt water is 64 pounds. This is part of the conversions and math that we were talking about earlier. So if your 1 cubic foot rock is 58 pounds, is it going to float, sink, or be neutral?
Float.
Float.
Think.
Wait.
Float.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Got a couple different answers there. So does anyone have an explanation for why they think it's going to do either of those things?
Is it displacement?
Okay. So the reason that it is going to float is because it's displacing a cubic foot of salt water. And as you can see up top, a cubic foot of salt water weighs 64 pounds. So this object is going to have a buoyancy force of 64 pounds. That's how much lifting force this cubic foot rock has. I know it's a little bit confusing because it doesn't say the volume of the rock, but the rock is 1 cubic foot. So because the rock only weighs 56 pounds, you have 6 pounds of lift holding this rock to the surface. Does that make sense to everyone?
Not in the slightest.
Okay, so now with this in mind, now that we understand that the rock is 1 cubic foot and that salt water is 64 pounds per cubic foot, and this is being buoyed up with 6 pounds of pressure because of its physics. Let's look at the next examples. So that's just showing you that the salt water is 64 pounds per cubic foot. So it's going to float. So for our next example, if the rock is still 1 cubic foot, but now weighs 68 pounds, is it going to sink, float, or be neutral?
Because you're still
awesome. Very good. And does anyone know what force it's going to sink with?
Wait.
4 pounds.
4 pounds.
Very good.
4 pounds of it.
Very good. You guys got it exactly. 4 pounds of sinking force because of Archimedes' principle. Very good, you guys. And then finally, we've got the final example.
Neutral.
Anyone have an idea what's going to happen here?
Neutral buoyancy?
It'll just be a neutral buoyancy.
Very good, everyone.
Yes,
Very
thank
good. All right. I think you guys understand Archimedes' principle. So some of the other things that are going to be in mind when thinking about Archimedes' principle is buoyancy, like we were talking about before. So other factors affecting buoyancy, you have the size and weight of the diver. So that's going to change how much space you're taking up in the volume, just changing the buoyancy factor that you have. The type and amount of equipment that you have. If they have air cavities and stuff like that, it's going to make a difference. The amount of weight worn. So as we get used to gear, you're going to learn about weights and how to weight properly. Thickness of the wetsuit. So the Boyle's principle actually does affect the wetsuit thickness throughout the dive. So the deeper you go, the more it'll compress your wetsuit. The amount of air in your BC, this changes throughout the dive. So you can add or take out air from your buoyancy compensator device to keep you properly buoyed. So you want to be neutral. So that way you're not going up or down and you can see what you're trying to look at in the water. The amount of air in your cylinder is obviously going to change as well as you go through the dive. Your amount of air in your lungs. So as Jacob was talking about earlier, your breathing will actually cause you to kind of go up and down in the water, especially once you kind of get used to your weighting and everything. Just taking a big breath, you'll come up a little bit, and you exhale and you go down, back down a little bit. You kind of like have this little like seesaw motion.
Cool. It's like
And like I was saying before, your wetsuits are going to compress at depth. So something is going to be a little counterproductive and might not make sense at first is you're going to, as we go deeper and deeper, you actually add a little bit of air into your BC. And the reason this is because your wetsuits are going to compress. As your wetsuits compress, you become less buoyant because you're taking up less space and you have less buoyancy force because of the less space that you're taking up. So that is one of the things that you're going to have to get used to while diving. It'll make more sense as we get into it though. And then as I was saying before, items carried, what their air pockets look like, what they're made of, stuff like that. And then of course, what you're diving in. So freshwater versus seawater. Like we were talking about earlier, freshwater is 62.4 pounds per cubic foot. Seawater is 64 pounds per cubic foot. That's the one that we use more often. So definitely make sure you know that. But that will also change your weighting. So you're going to use more weight in seawater than in freshwater while diving. And again, we'll go over that in detail as well. And just to remind you, these are adjusted throughout the dive. So certain things do change as dives go on. So buoyancy at depth. Buoyancy relates to workload, air usage, diving comfort, and stress level. So here you have a couple different trim profiles. So here we have a negatively buoyant diver. So here you have their head up, feet down. This is where you see a lot of overweighted divers. So when you're overweighted, your feet are going to be drawn down to the floor. You're going to be kicking up a lot of sediment. You're going to be making visibility worse. So we definitely do not want you in a negative diving position. This is a positively buoyant diver. So this one actually does have its purposes. So a lot of photographers use this position to get up and close on corals or specimens or whatever. Or doing like research and things of that nature, you might use this position. But for our purposes, we want all of our divers to be neutral. So this is going to require less resistance or less work because of the less resistance, less drag on the water forces on you. And this is also good for the environment, good for the corals, good for freshwater ecosystems. We don't want you breaking things, kicking things. We want you to just be nice, level, good divers. So like Victor was talking about earlier, we have air cavities in our ear. So this is one of the biggest, one of the first issues I would say people run into while scuba diving, getting used to clearing their ear. If you have experience flying, you'll have a little bit of knowledge of how to clear your ear and stuff like that. And there's a couple different ways that you can that we'll go through. But one of the things that we tell you about scuba diving is we want you to clear early and often. So you've got all these different air cavities in your head, and clearing it allows an equalization of pressure so that there's no excess buildup in any of these areas that can cause discomfort or pain. So one of the most common ways that discomfort can happen is eardrum problems. So ear changes under pressure. Here you have an eardrum under normal pressure. So if we're just on the surface. So if you were to start diving and you were not to equalize, this is something that could happen. You would have an eardrum squeeze. So as the pressure outside of your ear increases, it's going to try to push its way into your ear. And this will cause your eardrum to flex and can cause a lot of discomfort and pain. This is part of the reason we tell you to clear. However, the same thing can happen in reverse. So as you're coming up, the same issue can happen. However, the pressure will be in the opposite direction. This is a little bit less common, but they're both essentially handled the same way. So if you're having problems descending, you just come up a little bit, clear your ears, and slowly work your way down, clearing early and often. And then if you're having problems coming up, which is, like I said, less common, but if you're having problems coming up and you're having ear problems, go down a little bit, clear your ear, and then try to come back up. So like I said, clear early and often. And we have, Jacob was talking about these things earlier, the Daws Pro plugs. So if you have ear problems of any kind, ear infections or equilibrium problems or anything like that, we highly recommend these. A lot of our divers use these. They're super helpful. Gabrielle is actually a distributor, like it says, so it's actually cheaper to get it from her than online. They're invented to allow equalization to protect your ears, super easy to use. There's tethered and untethered versions. So like I said, there's a couple different maneuvers for how to equalize your ears. This is the most common one, the Valsalva maneuver. So I want you all to practice this. So I'm going to explain it first, then I'm going to have you all practice it. So first thing I want to stress, gentle, don't force it. We had a student recently try to force it and hurt himself. He was fine. He came back and finished the course next time, but he did have to take the day off and let his ear relax.
He had
So
to take a week off and go on antibiotics, and the doctor would only let him come back under the condition that he wore Daws Pro plugs. So that just goes to tell you how important these things are for ear health.
Yes, absolutely. So gentle forcing of air up the eustachian tubes. So your throat and mouth are actually connected to your ears through your eustachian tube. So this maneuver actually allows for a re-equalization of the two cavities, which can be made more difficult through allergies, sickness, congestion, things of that nature, which we also have measures for dealing with. But so gently forcing air up the eustachian tube. So you want to equalize every 2 to 4 feet on descent. And then it's less common for needing to do it on the way up, but you can, like I was saying, if you have a reverse squeeze, you can use this maneuver to also help equalize. So let me go ahead and actually skip over to the next slide, since this is actually
can you go ahead and have them practice the Valsalva maneuver?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So like I was saying before, what you want to do is you want to gently squeeze your nose and then gently blow air into your ears, essentially. You should hear it, you should feel it kind of like pop. And again, you should not be forcing it. You don't need to be mashing on your nose. We had one person giving themselves nosebleeds. It should be a very gentle, easy thing to do. So is anyone having problems getting their ears to pop doing that?
I feel like my eyeballs are trying to breathe. Like the
Yeah,
air's trying to come out of my eyeballs.
So that's actually also connected, your tear ducts as well, and things like that. So that's very normal. And that's also part of the reason we tell you not to do it too forcefully. It'll give you vertigo.
I don't feel a lot happening in my ears.
Okay. Well, so you might be one of the people that you might need some of these other maneuvers. So there's
like I've tried that on a plane and it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. So there's several techniques. So Valsalva is the most common one that people use, but there's also other ones. So tensing your throat and pushing your jaw forward.
That's the one I use more often, and I didn't know I had a name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't know a lot of these had names either. So these are just kind of things that I think you kind of pick up through experience and stuff like that, and don't realize that they have a name. So I want you everyone to kind of practice these different methods. I want you to see which one is going to work better on the surface, and that might not be the same case for in the water or underwater. So, I want you to try these different things, and also even your body posture can change how well you're going to clear. So one of the things that we kind of tell people to do when we're underwater is to tilt your head back, and that a lot of times will help equalize, force the equalization. So we just tried the voluntary tubal opening. So tense your throat and push your jaw forward. So and then the next one is the Tonby maneuver. Pinch your nose and swallow. So eating and swallowing can trigger the reflex as well. So pinch your nose. See if you can get it to pop that way.
That'd be like chewing gum, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what chewing gum will do for you.
I can't do that with the scuba gear.
Unfortunately, which is why we've got to try all the different methods, see which ones work, which ones are the easiest, and which ones suit you the best. So then we have the Frenzel maneuver. Pinch your nose and make the sound of the letter K. That one I have less experience with personally, I will say. Lowry technique, pinch your nose, blow, and swallow. So this is kind of combining multiple techniques.
Oh, I did it.
And then Edmund, pinch your nose, blow, and push your jaw forward. So kind of mix and matching different techniques together.
That's great. I heard and I did it in there. That's always good when you find something that works for you. And like
So
Ronny
keep that
said,
in mind.
underwater is different.
Yeah, that is true. So keep that in mind. Think about like what works for you, what helps you. And remember that there's multiple different ways to do it. What might work on the surface might not work underwater. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So up next we have breathing adjustments. So lung over expansion, like I was talking about earlier, because of Boyle's law. Don't skip breathe. So we want normal breathing patterns. We don't want you holding your breath, especially while on ascent, but just never while scuba diving. Always just breathe normal. So need for clean breathing gas, and this has to do with cylinder fills and stuff like that. And then the cardinal rule of diving. I'll say it again, always breathe, never hold your breath. It's the single most important thing that we can teach you about safe diving. Just breathe normal and everything else will come fairly easily. Okay, so on to the medical side of stuff. So we have pulmonary barotrauma. So these are the different traumas that can happen from holding your breath while trying to ascend. So pneumothorax, mediastinal emphysema, subcutaneous emphysema, arterial gas embolism. And these are our main barotraumas that we're going to be concerned about. So some other things to be concerned about is your heart and lungs. So your immersion workload. So while diving, you need to be, fit enough to dive. Your heart works 1.3 to 1.5 times harder because of the water pressure, workload, cold water, and elevated stress. Normal heart is stressed, and you must be physically fit to dive. Though one of the things that we tell everyone is diving is 60% mental, 40% physical. So, obviously I have my own physical disabilities and difficulties to deal with when it comes to scuba diving and getting into the water especially. But most of the things are more mind over matter. So, that's part of the reason we teach kids so young is because it's not so much you need to be physically strong, you just need to know how to handle things and how to deal with things in the moment. So equilibrium adjustments, like I was talking about earlier. So you have your ears that you're going to clear for, which deal with your semicircular canals. That's where you're going to get vertigo and things like that, and cause dizziness or an upset stomach. You also want to avoid seasickness. So watch what you eat, what you smell, moving on the boat, and eyes on the horizon. If you're bothered by gas lane, you obviously don't want to be at the back of the boat. But also the movement will also be a little more extreme on the front of the boat as well. So eyes on the horizon is a good technique for dealing with that. So visual adjustments, as Victor was talking about, objects are going to appear closer and larger. And then you're also going to have light loss at depth due to turbidity, depth, and surface light, though the main thing is going to be turbidity. And like Victor said, your colors are going to change too. So as you go down deeper and deeper into the water, the colors are going to get absorbed in this order. So it starts with red. So at about 30 feet, red colors start to become heavily distorted and start looking gray. And that's going to apply to the other colors as well, deeper and deeper. So the last color to disappear is indigos and violets. And that is because of the wavelength of the colors and the chemical bonds of the water. So that is also why things typically tend to look blue or violet underwater. So here you can see in the foreground, you've got all these great colors, all of the corals and the sponges and the vibrancy of the life here. However, you can see the stuff in the back is the same exact stuff. However, it's all blue, gray, washed out. You don't see the bright, vibrant colors. However, you can re-add those colors back by using lights and photography and things of that nature. So here's another example. The stuff in the foreground, super colorful, super bright and vibrant. And then the stuff in the background, especially depending on the color, this is where you can really see the difference between the reds and the other colors. The red almost immediately starts disappearing and going away, whereas the other colors are a lot easier to see even from further away. Okay, so up next we have in-gassing and out-gassing. So nitrogen absorbed and oxygen used. So as you know, we're obviously metabolizing the air. And that's the whole point of our lungs. So we're using oxygen as we're going through our dive. And the nitrogen absorbed has to do with our tissue loads. So absorption to body tissues. This is released upon ascent. So this has to do with Henry's law, that the soda example. So all those bubbles coming out of the cold soda, when you release the pressure, that's the same thing that happens to us. So when you're coming up from a dive, especially from a colder dive or a longer dive, as you're coming up, you're releasing the pressure off of your body. As you release that pressure off of your body, all of this absorbed nitrogen that has been dissolved into your tissues is now going to start outgassing into your body because of the release of pressure. This is where all of the diving sciences and all the medical issues come from, or most of them, I should say. This is the majority of the issues come from. So ascent rates and safety stops are a very important part of what we do. What we'll do is we'll say, 3-minute safety stop. We do this at 15 feet, and this is our way of outgassing. So as we come out of a scuba dive, we stop at 15 feet underwater and we allow the nitrogen to off gas of our body at pressure. It's the same thing that hyperbaric chambers do, just to a much less degree and for safety concerns versus a medical procedure. So decompression sickness, illness, signs and symptoms, the reason that you would have that hyperbaric chamber. These are the reasons that we're telling you all these safety issues. It's the reason why we go over all of the diving physics and science and medicine, and why we really harp and stress the importance of understanding the physics of what's going on, so you know why you aren't going to injure yourselves. You know how not to injure yourselves. And then finally, obviously, we're going to teach you first aid, oxygen, and recompression. And this is in the case that something were to happen. We want you to be able to handle an emergency situation, obviously. And then here's, like I was saying, the Henry's law, the soda problem. So a cold soda releasing bubbles as the pressure is released off of it. So reducing your risk. So ascent rates, you want to do less than 30 feet per minute. And this is it. It doesn't sound very slow, but it feels really slow. And this is one of the things that we're going to, again, harp on you in the pool session, especially as well as the open water dives, on proper ascents. Watch us, watch how slow we go, watch how, how we turn while we're doing our ascent. And of course, we will go over the procedure of doing so in person as well.
And Ronny, can you go ahead and show them what that looks like, hand over hand?
Yeah. So we say hand over hand. So hand, 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 hand. Literally that. It doesn't feel that slow, but it is very slow underwater. And we'll have you practice that a couple of times, frankly. And then, like I was saying before, we have safety stops as well. And this is a safety measure. This is a way to be conservative. So 15 feet for 3 minutes. You'll see us do the 3 minutes, stop, hold this depth. So that means we're going to be staying at 15 feet for 3 minutes. So 3 minutes, hold this depth. And again, that is a safety measure that we use to allow our bodies to off-gas the nitrogen that we've absorbed while scuba diving. So recognizing a problem, recognizing decompression sickness. So joint pain is the most common symptom. Tingling and lateral paralysis is next, with limited use of legs, vision problems, and dizziness to unconsciousness. First aid and treatment for it. First thing you're going to want to check is safe scene. So you don't want to become a second victim. This is one of the first parts of rescue and accident preparedness. You want to make sure you're not going to also become a victim or injure yourself by trying to save someone. Next, you have your ABCs or CABs, depending on which organization you're working with. They're all essentially the same thing though: airway, breathing, and circulation. So all of your major lifelines, ways that your body keeps you alive. Lay flat. This is just to allow blood to circulate properly. Call for help. The sooner you call for help, the sooner help can get there. And, depending on the situation, seconds can save lives. And then this is a really important one, 100% oxygen. So we're all taught how to administer oxygen. We actually have a whole class on accident. So DRAM, diver rescue and accident management. So it's all about accidents and rescues and how to deal with emergency situations. Really great class for advanced students and stuff like that. And then treatment is recompression. So this is a hyperbaric chamber. This is actually a really nice one. Most of them aren't going to look that nice. Different sizes, different capabilities, lots of different medical uses for it. But obviously for us, it is to recompress the nitrogen bubbles that have expressed themselves within our blood and within our tissues, recompress them, and allows us to metabolize them in a safe and healthy way. And this is the inside of one. Again, not all of them are going to be that nice. Some of them you're going to have nurses and stuff like that with you. Most of them are not. If unsure, call Dan. Dan, the Divers Alert Network, is our go-to for everything. You can do it for any kind of injury or accident or issue that you're having with scuba diving. That's also who does the insurance that Gabrielle was talking about at the beginning. So dehydration. This is super important, especially in Florida. It's very easy to become dehydrated, and also it's very easy to become dehydrated while scuba diving. So one of the things that people think is, oh, I'm scuba diving, I don't need to worry about hydrating because I'm wet, I'm in the water, I'm not sweating, but you are still sweating. So hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Also, something to keep in mind is the diuretic effect. So if you're drinking a lot of coffee, something with sugar, salts, teas, sodas, especially alcohols heavily, these are all going to cause diuretic effects. These are all going to pull water out of your kidneys, and you're going to end up peeing a lot more than you normally would. This is going to dehydrate you more, especially in regards to scuba diving. You might give yourself headaches or other issues that makes diving just more difficult and less enjoyable. And of course, we want this to be enjoyable for you. So please hydrate, eat well. A lot of people will try to skip breakfast before the pool sessions. Please do not do that. You're going to be very grumpy. You're going to be very angry with us. We don't want that. Eat and hydrate before anything we do. That helps in a lot of aspects, even outside of scuba. So avoid diuretic drinks, all the ones that I've listed. So all those things dissolved in the sodas and teas and whatnot. Hydrate frequently. And then some other things that we're going to want to keep in mind is mobility adjustments. So like I said, there are some physical aspects of scuba diving. One of the hardest things, especially for our smaller members and me, is lifting gear. So especially the cylinders, and once everything's set up with weights, it can be quite heavy. Walking with fins, drag and current, so keeping things nice and tucked in. streamlining gear, like I was just mentioning. So another medical issue that we're going to want to keep in mind, though, is nitrogen narcosis. So first aid, it's really simple. You just ascend to a shallower depth. Onset and relief of symptoms is rapid and directly related to depth. Prevention is avoid deep dives, ascend when symptoms first occur, and reduce nitrogen and gas mixture. We have this course called Nitrox. I think Gabrielle mentioned it at the beginning. We usually teach it alongside with advanced. And that's one of the ways that you can reduce nitrogen in your gas mixture. I've only ever experienced this one time. And that was because we were doing deep dives and like consecutive dives, multiple dives. So it took me 7 years of diving to even ever experience it. So I doubt any of you will, but it's very easy to handle. You just ascend a little bit and the symptoms will go away really easily. So there's an old incorrect notion that of inert gas narcosis compared narcosis to the effects of alcohol. So Martini's law, colloquially known, but that's not really a good explanation of it. We've heard some very crazy stories though about people thinking that they can breathe underwater, people trying to take off their gear underwater, people swimming away from their partner. So it's just kind of you will feel out of your mind essentially. It's
And Ronnie, what depth does this happen?
typically past 100 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. So like 80 to 100 or deeper. So
Yeah.
open water divers are never going to experience this unless they do something stupid and dive past their limits. So
yeah, like I said, none of you should be experiencing this. Very rare, and again associated with deep diving. And then hazardous marine animals. So again, this is kind of going into the first aid and medicine stuff. So sea urchin punctures, you want to remove the spines. Don't worry about pieces remaining in skin. Clean the wounds. Soak the wounds in hot water. See a physician if it's not a simple wound or if spines are in a joint. Sponge dermatitis. Do not rub wound. Soak wound in household vinegar for 15 minutes. This will deactivate according to pH. Use adhesive tape to remove sponge tissue and small spicules. And then use hydrocortisone for inflammation. So allergic reactions. Allergic reactions include jellyfish. So you want to remove the tentacles with tweezers. Do not flush with water. That will activate the tentacles and the nematocysts, causing them to fire. Do not urinate on the wound. That is an old tale and does not work. It'll make it worse. Shave the area with shaving cream and a razor to remove the nematocysts. Soak in hot water to deactivate the nematocysts, and then use topical pain relievers or steroids as needed. And then for box jellyfish, you want to use dilute vinegar. Do not rub. This will activate the nematocysts. And be prepared to provide CPR and evacuate. So preparing equipment. So we're going to kind of go through this quickly because we're going to go through this more thoroughly in person at the pool. So this is something that we're going to tell you in person as well. O-ring air comes out to you. So the way that I think of it is that the air is coming out of that hole straight into the back of your head. That'll make more sense once we have the equipment in front of you. But just keep in mind, O to your head. So mounting the BC, again, we're going to kind of go through this quickly. You want to strap it down, make sure it's tightly done. Otherwise, it's going to be slipping all over the place. You have regulators. So this is your first stage. You want to make sure that dust cap is on unless you're putting it on a cylinder. Here's your second stage. So this is also called your regulator. You're going to have two of them. So you're going to have your primary regulator and then an octopus. So if you look on the left pictures, those yellow hoses, that is your octopus. So that is your, and right here you can see it, your secondary breathing apparatus. So if something were to happen to your primary regulator, or if your buddy, because we always dive with a buddy, that's a big part of safe diving. If your dive buddy were to have a problem, run out of air, have equipment failure, you now have a secondary way for them to breathe until you guys can get to a safe location or to the surface. So where do hoses go? So here you can see this lady setting up the BC. Like I said, you can't really see it too well, but the O is going to the back of the head. So if you were to be wearing that like a jacket, that O would be going straight to the back of your head. So stand behind the cylinder, second stage on your right. And again, this will make more sense once you see the full setup and you have your snorkel and everything else. Gauges and BC hose on the left. So it's coming from your cylinder, going through the hoses. You have high pressure and low pressure hoses, depending on which equipment it's going to. Here you have them screwing it on. You just want to hand tighten it. Don't crank it down. We don't want it to get stuck. We don't want to break anything. So just hand tighten it. And this kind of goes with everything with scuba. Don't crank it, just hand tighten. And then here we have the power inflator being plugged into its port. And this is so that your gauge and pressures can be read. You have your regs on the right side, and then that is module 2. So diving physics, thermal adjustments, buoyancy, breathing, heart and lungs, in-gassing, outgassing, mobility adjustments. You will need to learn a lot more about gear when we are at poolside setting up. And then just a reminder, so our swimming requirements. So one of the first things we're going to have you do is the exit requirements. So we need you to do the exit requirements, not the entrance requirements. So we're going to have you come to the pool session, do your exit requirements first. So 300-yard surface distance swim, 500 feet underwater.
50,
we
50
do
feet.
allow a push off. So that's actually,
Ronnie, 50 feet, not 500 feet.
sorry, 50 feet. That's actually doable as opposed to 500. And then 15-minute tread water survival floating. The hardest part for most people is the 50-foot underwater. But we won't give up on you. We are going to get you through this. Even if you have a hard time with it, we can always have you do it again at a later time. But we also recommend that you practice for this.
Thank you so much. Yes, please get in the pool and practice. Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, students, for your attention. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question about the ascending. You had 2 items there. One was, what was it, less than 30 feet a minute, and then the lower one was 15 feet every 3 minutes.
No, that's a safety stop. It's any dive that we do to more than 1 atmosphere below the surface, so more than 33 feet, we do a safety stop. The safety stop is always at 15 feet for 3 minutes. As for ascending, that is hand over hand, really slow. Okay.
Okay, just I guess the 15, the 30 foot and the 15 foot in the diagram confused me.
Yeah,
a
so
little.
there are 2 different things. One is regarding safety stops, and the other one is ascent rates. Both of those things are tied to making sure that you stay safe and you don't end up with decompression sickness.
Okay.
I have a question as well.
Sure.
Is there any way to communicate while underwater?
Yes, there are ways to communicate. The main way we communicate is using hand signals. And in the next class, we'll teach you about those hand signals. But hand signals are very important in communicating underwater. Now, I also speak underwater a lot, and most people can understand me. But it's there are systems, Vox systems, but they're expensive and they don't work super well. So not a lot of people have them. The easiest way to communicate is hand signals.
Okay.
Other questions? You want to learn a couple real quick? Let's give them some. So this thumbs up doesn't mean cool in scuba diving. This means we want to end our dive. Don't do that. Don't do that. That means I want to go up. I want to ascend. Okay. This means okay. Everyone do that. I'm okay. So if I say, are you okay? You say, yes, I'm okay. Now the sign we use when we want to say something is cool is this. Cool. Really cool. We make signs when we see certain animals in the water. So turtle, shark, What are some other ones? Puffer? Octopus? Ah, one of my favorites.
Show me that turtle again.
So it's kind of hard to see, but it's like two hands and yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Other signs that we're going to do. I said up, this is descend, down. This is not okay. Kind of like, nah, I don't know. So if you say ears, not okay. Or maybe you're feeling nervous, you say, I'm not okay. And then we're going to say stop. So stop, think, breathe. Those are just a handful of them. We'll give you more next time.
Also,
Great
okay is a question and an answer. So if we do this to you, that means we want to know if you're doing okay. So you either give us the okay back to let us know, yes, I am okay, or you say, not feeling too good about my ears or whatever it is that you're having a problem with.
Yeah, and we will teach you more hand signals next time. Another one is 3 minutes. Hold the step, safety stop. So when we do that 15-minute stop, we go 3 minutes, hold the step, safety stop. Okay. Some people do this as well for safety stop. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for your attention. We got out a little early tonight. Yay. Please get with me, after tomorrow, next week is fine. And start reading the textbook if you don't already have it. Get with Miles. Miles, how many packets do you have left? Do you know?
I want to say 4, but they're outside.
Yeah, that's okay.
They're on my back porch for people to grab. So I want to say I've got 4 left.
Yeah.
Miles, I picked some up this afternoon. It was the last 2.
Oh, you did? All right. Well, then I've got no more. I guess.
Okay,
Max got 'em.
just confirm that if you don't mind. And then everyone
will.
else, if you text me at 850-321-8222, just text me. I'm running around town a lot and do, a lot of different activities. And so I can meet you somewhere. In fact, I'll be, for those of you in the Winthrop Park area, I'll actually be over at Fleet Feet on Wednesday of next week in the evening also for an event at Fleet Feet. So.
Sounds good. And I'll coordinate with you too, Gabrielle, and we can just make sure we have everything taken care of.
That sounds good. And then if you would, just try to get your paperwork to me printed whenever you have an opportunity. And follow the instructions in the email, please. Okay?
Yes.
Great. I will be sending a follow-up message with lots of details that we decided on tonight. And I'll also send a link to the recording in that message.
Okay.
So
And
Go
if anybody doesn't, who's not on the email chain, if you could send that to Gabrielle, just so that we have that and she can be on there. And if there's an issue with adding it, just send me a message and I can make sure I get it to her as well.
Yeah, and the emails I got directly from the registration. So if you haven't registered, please register. I think everyone is, but I know we had someone just register today, but if anyone's not registered, please register and I'll make sure that I get all your information. Then we'll put you in the database so that you have Divers Alert Network insurance. One more thing, excuse me, one more thing I'm going to do for you is I'm going to enroll you in a Divers Alert Network course, perfect for scouting. It's called Prepared Diver. And so I want you to watch that before we meet again. So you have plenty of time. It's nice and easy, but it'll help you be a better diver. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening. Thank you, teaching team.
All right. Thank you. Very good.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks.